This video will go over several different types of word problems that you do right after you solve linear equations. This says 8 less than 3 times a number is equal to the number increased by 6. What is the number? Sometimes students read a problem like this and they panic because there seems like there's so much information here. Anytime you are looking at this kind of problem where it's just a translating thing, my suggestion is that you look for the word is or is equal to, because that is always going to translate to your equal sign. Once you have that, then you can just deal with one part and the other. So we're going to deal with what's in front of that equal sign. This says 8 less than 3 times a number. All we have to do is translate that. You've got to remember that less than translates backwards. Usually we translate in order from left to right, but this less than is this phrase that tells us to work backwards. So I put my 8 down, but as soon as I see the phrase less than, instead of working this way, I'm putting the minus in front. And what is it 8 less than? It's less than 3 times the number. So 3x minus 8. Go to what's behind the equal sign, and this says is equal to the number increased by 6, which is just the number increased by 6. There's one that is translated in order from left to right. That right there should be a pretty simple equation to solve. All we have to do is get our x's together on one side, numbers on the other, and solve. So subtract x from both sides will give us 2x minus 8 equals 6. Add 8 to both sides. Gives us 2x equals 14. Divide by 2. And x equals 7. Let's look at another one. 3 times the difference of a number and 5 is equal to, so there's my equal sign, is equal to. So I need to translate what's in front of that. 3 times the difference of a number and 5. 3 times, so 3 times, the difference. Difference is something special also. When you see the word difference, you should put it in parentheses. And what's going in the parentheses is the difference, so there's a minus sign there, between a number and 5. The x will come first because the word number comes before the number 5. That's our translation of the left side. I didn't need the dot. I'm just showing you that it's 3 times. To translate what's behind the equal sign, it's equal to twice the number increased by 8. In order from left to right, twice the number is 2 times the number increased by 8. Right there is an equation you should be able to solve. Steps here will be to distribute our 3. Subtract 2x from both sides, which gives us x minus 15 equals 8. Add 15 to both sides, and x equals 23. This has got more to it because it's one number, it's 6 times a first number, and then we have a third number, which makes me think that this one number really is what I would call a second number, so that this is what I would write word-wise. There's a first number, a second number, and a third number, and I need to come up with a variable or a variable expression for each of these. It says one number is 6 times a first number. I need to know that first number before I could do this part, so I'm going to call the first number x. The one number is really my second number. And how do I know it's my second number? Because this sentence talks about my third number. So this has got to be my second number. So this number is 6 times the first number. That's just 6x. The third number is 80 more than the first number. So 80 more than the first number, which is what we called x. This part right here is what I call naming the variable, and it's the real important part because once you get these named appropriately, usually writing the equation is pretty easy. This equation says the sum of the 3 numbers is 1040. Well, you know that the sum means to take all these guys and add them together. So I'm going to write this out horizontally. X plus 6x plus 80 plus x equals 1040. Now, instead of writing it horizontally, I could have kind of gathered up my like terms right here. X plus 6x plus x is just going to give me 8x plus 80. That would save you a little step. Equals 1040. And right there, there's your basic two-step equation. Subtract 80 from both sides will give me 8x equals 960. Divide both sides by 8. And x equals 120. Now you got to pay attention to what you're asked for. It says find the numbers. It's not just x equals 120. I got to find all of them. So if x is 120, I put that 120 in for that x. Put 120 in for that x. 6 times 120 is 720. Put 120 in for that x. 80 plus 120 is 200. and you can check that by adding all those up, and you will get 1,040. Another one where we'll have to look at 3 different expressions, but this one is already named out for you because it's put in the triangle. It says, use the diagram to find the angle measures of the triangle. All we have to do is add these up equal to 180. You should remember from your geometry days that the sum of the angles in a triangle is 180. And if you don't remember, well, it's sitting right there in the problem for you. So all we have to do is add these up and set it equal to 180. So x plus 2x plus 10 plus 4x plus 16 equals 180. So add this up is going to be 7x plus 26 equals 180. You have a basic 2-step equation to solve. Subtract 26 from both sides. Gives us 7x equals 154. Divide both sides by 7, and x is 22. But it wants me to find all of the angles, so I have to plug back in. If x is 22, that means that angle is 22. Put 22 right here. 4 times 22 is 88, plus 16 is 104. And if I put 22 right here, 2 times 22 is 44, plus 10 will give me a final answer of 54, and that will check. If I add those 3 angles up, we'll get 180. One more on this video has to do with the length and width of a rectangular field. This says the length of the rectangular field is 4 feet less than twice the width. If 64 yards of fencing is needed to enclose the field. Now when you see the word enclose, we're talking really about perimeter. So this is just your basic geometry perimeter problem. Now the way I do this, because we're dealing with the words length and width, the first thing you have to do is actually write down the words length and width and decide that one of these two has to be what I call the plain old variable. You can't just let length be L and width be W, because then you're going to have 2 variables in the problem. So you have to make a decision. This says the length is yada yada yada. I told you something about the length. Nothing was said about the width. Therefore, width is your plain old variable. Your length can be written as an expression based on this sentence right here. It is 4 feet less than twice the width. 4 less than, there's my 4, less than, I work backwards, twice the width. Those are my 2 expressions for length and width. I'm now going to put those over here on the picture. Width is W, so I'll label those both as W. You know in a rectangle that the opposite sides are equal, and I can label this as 2W minus 4. We've decided this is a perimeter problem. Perimeter just means the sum of the sides. So I can add all of these up as 2W minus 4, that's the top, plus W, because that's my right side, plus another 2W minus 4, that's the bottom, plus W right here, which is my left side, has to add up to 64. So there's our equation. We just have to gather up our like terms. 2W plus 1W plus another 2W plus 1W is 6W. Negative 4 is negative 8 equals 64. Now, that's just doing perimeter, like just add them all up, because that's what perimeter means. You could use the formula for perimeter. The formula for perimeter of a rectangle is 2L plus 2W. So I could do 2 times 2W minus 4 right here, that's my L, plus 2 times my W, which when I clean that up and add my like terms together, I will get this same equation. So use that formula if you know it and you like it, but you don't have to memorize it because you can just add up all the sides the way they are. Add 8 to both sides, gives me 6W equals 72. Divide by 6, and W is 12. Now that's my width. We have to go back up in here and plug in. If the width is 12, then plug 12 right here. 2 times 12 is 24, minus 4 is 20. And that was yards. So the length is 20 yards and the width is 12 yards.